Okay, welcome back to the Strand tutorials. Hopefully you spent some time with the last tutorial working through and building your bridge. Today I'm going to build the bridge again, but I'm going to do it in a different way and show you some different tools. So I've just opened Strand. I'm going to go new. We're going to stay in meters and newtons. That's fine. Okay. So we're going to go back and we're going to build the bridge again, exactly the same structure. But instead of going through and making all the nodes, I'm going to show you some different ways of doing that. I am going to create a node at 0, 0, 0 first, just like we did last time, our origin. So create a node. I find it very valuable to learn these hotkeys, Control W and Control E for making nodes and elements. You use those all the time. And throughout the videos I might slip into using those again, so if you are seeing these little windows just appear randomly, learn your hotkeys, they are going to be useful to you. Alright, so I want to make a node at 0, 0, 0, so I'm just going to apply that. Got my first node. Again, I'll make them a little bit bigger so that you can see them on my screen, so I can right click and I get a whole bunch of new options. Entity display will allow me to change the size of my nodes. I can go in and change things about beams and plates and bricks here as well. I'm just going to apply that to make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so I've got my first node. Instead of going and making all of these other nodes, I'm going to show you some cool things. So our Tools tab is what I'm predominantly going to be talking about today. Tools are generally used to help you build complex geometry quickly. So one of the simplest things we can look at doing here is taking this node that we have and copying it along to make these other nodes here. So if I go Tools, Copy, I can copy my node around. Now, I have a whole bunch of options here. By increment is the one that we're going to use first. It's the one that you'll use almost always. So basically what it asks us to do is come in and go, what increment do we want? Our increment is 3 meters in the x direction. So that's our increment, is the distance from there to there. And then the number of repeats we want is 1, 2, 3. So increment is 3 and repeats is also 3. That's convenient. If I hit apply now, it will tell me I have no node selected, no entities were modified because I haven't selected that node yet. There we go. Apply. Cool. 4 nodes down the bottom. When making 4 nodes, arguable as to whether it's quicker to just make the 4 nodes or not. When making 400 nodes, this naturally becomes the easier thing to do. Right, I'm going to create this next node up here, so Control W to create a node, 1.5, if we remember that was 2.598, I think. I'll show you how to check that in a minute. Alright, I got my node there, looks about right. What I can do is come up to Tools again. So that was Copy. I'm going to show you Extrude now. So Extrude works in exactly the same way as Copy. So I'm going to extrude by increment. 3 meters, I only need 2 in this case. So I only want those 2 nodes. But when I extrude, no node selected, it automatically makes the beams. So what happens with an extrusion, you extrude a node to make a beam. If you were to extrude a beam, you would get a plate. If you were to extrude a plate, you would get a brick. So it fills in the gap with the next higher order element. Now that's cool because I don't even have to go and join these dots up anymore. For the bottom, so if I want to make beams, Control E. If I did my copy, I still have to go and join my beams up. If you do an extrude, you don't. So that's kind of cool. Just going to get rid of that. Right, I'll show you something else. instead of making all of these nodes and joining them up, there is another thing that I can do. So I am going to just make this section here. So I've made this little triangle piece here, which is that one there. And that whole thing, that whole triangular element is actually can just be copied across another 2 times. And we can move all of them at once. So if I come up here to beam select, because I want to grab my beams, and I activate select, I can grab all of these. Now, you may or may not have noticed, because I already had that node selected, when I drag my window here, I select everything, but it unselects that node. It's a pain. Often what you want to do is come up here and hit deselect all, clear all selections. Now I've got nothing selected. Now I can grab everything. So I've got this, I've got my beams and my nodes selected. I can copy the whole thing. Okay, so you don't just have to copy nodes by themselves. I can copy everything 3 meters over, do it twice, hit apply, and it'll make all of this for me. So that's cool. That's a thing that you can do. You don't have to bother making these nodes. Just going to show you something else real quick. Alright, I currently have my beams selected, but not my nodes. If I copy those over, it automatically makes these nodes here for me. That's because a beam can't exist without nodes at either end of it. So you will automatically generate some nodes whenever you copy a beam around. You may have also noticed that I've overlapped here. There were nodes there, and when I do my copy, I'm going to make new nodes on top of those old nodes. Overlapping nodes is not an issue, okay? It's never going to bother you. So don't freak out about having nodes, and don't freak out about having nodes that aren't connected to anything. That won't hurt you. Overlapping beams, however, that is a problem. So if I was to come in and create a beam that went from here all the way over here, I've now got a beam which has overlapped all of these other 3. So I've got a beam that goes from here to here, another one from here to here, another one from here to here, and then one that goes from here all the way to here. That's really, really bad. You never ever want to do that, but it will happen to you sometimes accidentally. So as an example, something that you might end up making in the future might be one of those. Something that looks like this, and then you decide, I really want to come in and make some more truss elements in here, so I know I'll create a node there, apply, make a beam that joins those up and those up, and oh no, now you've got an overlapping element here. So it happens all the time. See, even if I delete that, I've still got an element underneath. Very bad. Try to be aware of it. One of the ways that you can be aware of it is if you come down here, Strand will tell you how many beams are in your entire model. If you can go through and count them up and go, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total, and you've got 5, well, that's great. You know that you haven't accidentally made any. But it is a bit of a trap for young players. Okay, so I'm just going to deselect everything. I'll just get rid of that. I'll just rebuild it. Go away. Control E. U. There we go. Cool. I got all my beams in there. the building of simple structures like this really doesn't take very long. If you know where all your nodes are, the building of your water towers shouldn't really take that long. Fiddling around trying to find exactly the right tool might take you far, far longer than just sucking it up, building all the nodes and joining them up by hand. Okay, so the purpose of this course is not to make you a master at Strand 7. So if you can see a simpler way of doing something, do it the simple way. Okay, I'm just showing you some cool techniques in here that might help you. So the most common ones you use are copy and extrude. Another one that can be useful is subdividing, although you're not going to use this very often. What you can do if you want to come and grab this element and break it up into, say, 10 elements, you can do that with a subdivide. Now you can come in and you can join all sorts of weird and wonderful things up for no reason at all, because this is a terrible structure. But that is a way of breaking things up. If you don't have nodes where you want nodes, subdividing is a way to get them. Get rid of that. So that is subdivide. Another really useful tool is actually points and lines. Now this is more useful when you're trying to make curved geometry, because beams aren't very good at making curved geometry, as you can probably tell, because they're, straight. But if you want to make a curve, you can do it, for example, using points and lines. So what points and lines does is gives you a whole bunch of different options in here. It's not just for making curves, it's great for making intersection points as well. But you can make geometry using this tool. What it will ask you for is one of the tools you want to use. So say I want to put a radius bend in between two beams. I can come in, I can select this fillet tool, and it's asking me for the 3 points, points 1, point 2, and point 3. So I come and just tell it point 1, which could be that point 2, say that one, and point 3 is this one over here. And I put in a radius. I'm going to give it a number of steps. I'm going to give it 10. I create beams, that's all. Hit apply, and it will come and put in a radius for me. So that is generally a better way of building curved geometry than coming in and trying to mathematically work out where all of these points are. We'll also do points of intersection, which is a really common one that you might want to know if you have overlapping beams and you want to work out where they actually join up. You can do that with points of intersection. Again, points and lines, useful, but may take you longer to figure out than it would to simply build the geometry that you wanted. That's really the tools that you're going to use the most. You can have a play with some of the other ones, but I mean, you can't hurt anything, right? It's not really going to matter if you try any of these things out, see if you can find anything you like the look of. But the ones that you're going to use the most, copy and extrude, maybe subdivide and points and lines. The only other interesting thing here is move. I'm going to show you move in the context of, let me get rid of that, context of another tool. So one of the things we might have wanted to do, we worked out that this point here had a particular XYZ coordinate and we put it in. But what we really wanted was for that beam to be 3 meters long. Now we might have gotten that wrong because, I'm not very good at maths. If you come and you hold down shift and you hover over an entity, it will tell you information about it. So I'm hovering over my beam here and it's telling me which nodes it's connected to, and it's also telling me how long it is. Now for all intents and purposes it is 3 meters long, which tells me that I did get that node in the right place, which is great. I can change to point select here, come and hover over this node, and it will tell me its XYZ coordinates. So that's really good. Holding shift is the way that you get this information up. If you've only got nodes on, you won't get information about beams. Beams, it tells you their information. This is great, but sometimes you might want to be comparing, say, these nodes to other nodes somewhere else. There's another tool called Whiteboard, which is in summary. Yeah, I just remember Control-Alt-W. This tells you roughly the same information as what holding shift tells you, but if you click on two nodes, the information stays there about the one that you were talking about before, and then this one. Still tells you distances in between them, which is super useful. Allows you to work a whole bunch of stuff out. If ever you want to investigate your model, Whiteboard is generally a great tool to use for that. The reason that I wanted to show you this was you might realize that, I got that node in the wrong spot. That wasn't meant to be 2.598, it was meant to be 2.958. That's cool. You don't have to delete everything. You can go Tools, Move. You can move them to an increment. I can come and grab, say, this node, and I can go, I really wanted you to be another 1 meter higher. Oh, that's not going to be higher doing. 1 meter higher. Apply that, and it will move everything. That's fine, but you might want to know, you might not want to move it in increments, might want to move it to an absolute. So what moving something to an absolute allows you to do is go, no, I got the Y dimension wrong. I wanted it to be 2.7. Whatever. Apply that, it moves to a Y of 2.7. Super useful if you make a mistake. You don't have to delete everything and start again, you can just move stuff. There is one more really useful thing to do here in the move to absolute, and that's to say I want this node and I want to move it to the Y of, you can come in here and select another node. So I want to move it to the Y location of that node. Apply that, and it will line things up for you really, really easily. Super useful tool again, helping you build geometry. In something this simple, none of it matters. Build the points, join them up. But once you start to get more and more complicated structures, you do have these tools at your disposal. Depending on how complicated of a water tower you decide you want to build, you might want to start using a lot of these tools. That's more or less it for tools in here. So I'm going to leave it there. What I would advise you to do is to come in and try to make this bridge in as many different ways as you possibly can, but try to make it three-dimensional. So the original bridge had two sides and had some members joining them up. So my advice to you would be extrude yourself out, or I'm not even going to imply that you should extrude however you would like to, make the other side of your bridge so you've got both sides, connect them up with some sort of beam in some sort of way, and maybe come in and try to make all of these cross members which are joining up the model in different places. So these ones coming vertically down here, and these cross braces up the top. Have a go at that, see how you go, and hopefully by the time you've done that, you should be able to start looking at water towers and going, yeah, I can model this. Again, might take you a couple of hours. Don't stress, that's about as long as I would expect it to take you. One more thing that will be useful to you. If you are on a uni computer, you'll be able to come to the help option here. Go to tutorials. Strand 7 has its own built-in tutorials here to take you through the use of the software. You want to be going through static analysis of a truss, that's basically what we've been doing. Don't stress too much about any of the rest of this, but if you are curious about any of it, there are Strand 7 tutorials to help you. Now on my machine, this won't actually show anything, but on your machines, it should. Full complete tutorial to take you through everything here. So if you want a second opinion on the way to build things, by all means go and use the Strand help. Okay, have fun building your bridges.